D. Freeman, retired special agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, interviewing I.E. Nitschke, another former special agent of the FBI, who was one of the founding agents within this bureau. I'm interviewing him at his home on August the 14th, 1985. We will be discussing some of his remembrances of early cases in the FBI, mostly of major significance, in which he had active participation.
We're presently discussing the BradyShafferDahover Gang that the FBI finally cornered in Bangor, Maine on Columbus Day in October 1937. There was a sporting goods store in the city of Bangor, Maine, named Dakins, D-A-K-I-N-S, and the owner of the store was Shep Hurd, H-E-R-D, Hurd. And these people had come to the sporting goods store several weeks prior to Columbus Day, had bought some automatic pistols, and had ordered some parts for a Thompson submachine gun that was to be shipped from New York City up to his sporting goods store. In the meantime, we knew that Brady, one of the key members of the mob, had been quite a roller skate enthusiast, and he had a very small foot. In fact, his shoe size was size 7. And we placed a stop notice with the various manufacturers of shoe roller skates in the United States. And subsequently, we received a message from one of the companies that they had received an order for a pair of men's size 7 roller skates to be shipped to a roller rink in Bangor, Maine. And one of the agents that was a resident agent up in Maine, working out of the Boston office, went to the police department and subsequently to Dakin's sporting goods store and roller rinks and all, and exhibited some pictures of the BradyShafferDahover Gang, and got positive identification that they had been there and that they were the ones that was going to come back after the parts for the machine gun. So there was Myron Gurney, Walter Walsh, Tony Reeder, myself, and let's see, Chris Callan, Joe Johnson. Those were some of the other agents that was there, and we were the first members that I named was what we called, for want of better words, the hot squad that was sent out on special and major cases from the headquarters in Washington. So Walter Walsh and I, having a thorough knowledge of guns, went to the sporting goods store and worked as clerks in there for approximately a week, awaiting the arrival of the previously described gang. And on the morning of Columbus Day, 1937, the car, the Buick automobile they were driving, parked 2 or 3 doors down the street from Dakin's sporting goods store, Dahover entered the store, and Schaefer stood out in front of the showcase on the sidewalk. And they had removed the rear glass from the Buick automobile, taken all the screws out, and had replaced the screws with wing nuts. They had 2 wing nuts that could be quickly unscrewed. And they had stolen a Browning automatic rifle off of a American Legion monument. I believe it was over in Maryland that they stole the gun. And Dahover had worked the gun over mechanically, cleaned it, worked the parts over, and had purchased odds and end parts in different places where they were, and had repaired the gun adequately to where it would shoot. In the meantime, they had made the acquaintance of a couple of Italian girls there in Baltimore, and they bought a sewing machine, and at Dahover's instructions, they made a web belt for .30-06 ammunition that would shoot in that Browning automatic rifle. That was to replace the clips. Instead of the clips, the belt would give them more ammunition. They then fixed a web belt with jiffy snaps that snapped on each side of the automobile in the back seat, and they could and they put a semicircular spring on the bottom of this gun, and they could take the rear glass out, as I mentioned, and stick the gun out the rear of the car, and with the belt they could lay down barrage fire with that .30-06 rifle. And they used that gun to kill 2 Indiana troopers over at Cayley Church, Indiana. And they also were practicing with that gun in a trash dump over near Baltimore. And somebody complained about the shooting, and some officers went down to see what it was all about. And one of them got killed by the mob when they were making their getaway. So we had knowledge that they had killed over there bank robberies and different armed robberies that they had committed. They had killed some 9 people in various sections of the country, mostly through Indiana and Maryland and the central part of the United States. We had federal bench warrants for their arrest issued in several of those federal judicial districts. So when Dahover walked into the sporting goods store on Columbus morning, we let him get inside the store and identified ourselves, Walter Walsh and I, and placed him against the wall and removed from him a .380 automatic and a .45 automatic weapon. They were both Colt guns. And I was placing the handcuffs on Dahover when we suddenly discovered that Schaefer was coming down to try to get into the front door of the store. The door set back some distance off the sidewalk. As he came down, he shot twice through the glass door, and one of the bullets struck Walter Walsh in the left shoulder. And at that time, I had finished putting the handcuffs on Dahover, and I rushed over to Walter's aid. And as Schaefer was running from the door out toward the sidewalk, he was hit several times with a Thompson submachine gun that I fired at him, and also he was hit as he got into the street, and on the sidewalk, he was hit by rifle fire from guns that Chris Callan and Joe Johnson had, and they were on the second floor over a tailor shop across the street from Dakin's Sporting Goods store. In the meantime, Gurney and Walt Devereaux, both agents, had approached the Buick from the back side, and Brady was sitting in the back seat. And they ordered him, identified themselves, and ordered him to get out of the car, that he was under arrest. And as he opened the back door, he was crouched over and had removed a gun from his someplace, either on his person or in the car, and started shooting at Devereaux and Gurney. One of the bullets from his gun went through a top coat, hit the holster, and ricocheted off the back of Devereaux's side, and it didn't injure Devereaux in any way. The bullet struck the leather holster and ricocheted around his body and come out the back of the top coat that he was wearing. But anyway, Brady was killed and fell in the street there with a car, and Schaefer died in the street in front of the sporting goods store. We subsequently summons the coroner to come over and conduct a preliminary investigation there at the scene. And the Bangor Police Department had worked very well with us, and we had planned that when that car came in, the Buick that they were driving came in to stop by Dakin's store, the police automatically blocked the street off behind them and in front of them, and there was no way they could get out in a vehicle. The only way they could have gotten out would have been on foot. So the Bangor police worked very closely with us, and were extremely cooperative during the whole process of the shootout with these people. Later, Gurney and I took Dahover to Hammond, Indiana, where he was turned over to the authorities there to hold in jail for trial. And subsequently, Gurney and I appeared at the trial to testify about who he was and identify him, and his arrest being duly made with a federal warrant. Subsequently, the jury found Dahover guilty, and he was electrocuted very in short order after the jury returning their verdict. So that took care of all three of the members of the gang that I have described to you. But they were quite a notorious gang. They had stolen many automobiles, and when we searched the car, they had license plates from many states in the trunk, and they had quite a large collection of large caliber guns, handguns, and various types of guns that they had intended to use and did use as weapons in some of the robberies and crimes that they'd committed. That's just a brief.
Bill, it's my understanding that this was a very notorious gang of that era, and that Mr. Hoover himself was personally interested in their apprehension. Could you tell us what, if any, participation the director had in this arrest?
I might say this, that the director was following this case minute by minute, and we were in pretty much constant contact with him primarily by long-distance telephone, and also messages that we would relay into the Boston field office. They, in turn, the agent in charge, in turn, would alert the director of the procedure and the progress of the case. Director Hoover had made a request that, if possible, he would like to come up there at the time we apprehended him. But under the circumstances, time would not permit, and the way these men showed up there at the sporting goods store, we had no time to wait for anybody. So immediately after the apprehension of Dahover and the shooting of the other two members of the gang, we notified Director Hoover by long-distance telephone. Due to the magnitude of this case and the fact that there were federal bench warrants outstanding in a number of states for their apprehension, this case received a tremendous amount of publicity, both nationally and internationally. And within a matter of a few hours, there was members of the working press and newsreel men and so on of the various media that showed up in Bangor from all over the United States. They were there from New York, Boston, Chicago, and a number of major cities where we had been looking for these people to apprehend them. So the case received by magazines and newsreels and the various daily publications, it received a tremendous amount of publicity, both in and out of the United States.
Bill, could you recall some of about the day? What time of the day did it take place? Was it in the morning or the afternoon? Was it a clear day, cold day? And then tell us a little bit about the crowd that gathered after the shooting.
Columbus Day in many of the eastern cities of the United States is a holiday, and it is celebrated annually. And this event occurring on Columbus Day meant that the stores and banks and schools, etc., were on a holiday. And within a matter of minutes after this shooting was over there in the street with this gang, there was hundreds of people that came in from all over. And of course, the news apparently got on the radio and other ways it was broadcast, and we had hundreds of people that gathered in the street. It was cool weather. It was in October. It gets pretty cold up in Maine, more so than other sections of the country. And the store normally opened about between 8 and 8:30 in the morning. And apparently they had ridden by the store earlier and determined that the lights were on and that the store would be open very shortly. So they came back, and it was about 8:20 in the morning approximately when they showed up and came into the store.
Bill, I think one thing that would be most interesting to people who follow the work of a law enforcement officer, and particularly those involved in a gun battle of this magnitude, is your individual personal recollection of what happened when the moment of truth arrived. I know that you did assist a wounded agent, but then you went to the doorway, as I understand it, and returned fire. And could you discuss what was going through your mind at that time?
I had a 357 Magnum on my hip, and on the other hip I had a 38 short barrel special. It was a 38 special. And I also had a Thompson submachine gun that I had taken to Bangor when I made the trip up there. And this gun I had worked over at Quantico, Virginia, where the FBI did most of their training and shooting for the agent personnel. And the gun I knew would function well whenever I needed it. And I took the Thompson submachine gun has two types of magazines. It has a 50-shot drum that is wound with a key, and also it has a 20-shot clip that would accommodate the 45 caliber ammunition. I took two clips and put them butt to butt and taped them together to where I had one clip with 20 cartridges in it, and hanging below that was another clip with 20 in other words, I had 40 rounds of ammunition if it was needed. And when Schaefer shot Walsh with one of his handguns, I believe it was a 380 automatic that he hit Walter with. As I previously mentioned, he turned to go back to the sidewalk, and there was a considerable distance from the glass door of the store to walk back to the sidewalk. And between the time he turned around and started toward the sidewalk, and by the time he fell in the street, he'd picked up 17 or 18 45 caliber shots from the Thompson submachine gun. And later the coroner, in making his inspection of the cause of death, etc., or his records, I believe his records showed that there were 17 hits in Schaefer's body. After the coroner and the police removed the bodies and the automobile and all from the street there by the sporting goods store, we, in the meantime, had searched the vehicle and removed all the weapons. There's a great number of weapons. There are a number of pictures of the guns that are available, and the license plates and other paraphernalia that they had in the car. The car was impounded and put over at the police department, and after we had taken care of all those things and had checked on Walter Walsh's condition, who was then in the hospital, and found that he was not critical, several of us had gone down to the Penobscot Exchange, a hotel there where we were staying, and we were having some food in the afternoon, and Devereaux discovered a hole in his top coat, and it was then that he found out that it had gone through his suit coat, struck the holster, and ricocheted and come out the back. And it was not until that time that he knew he'd been that close to being hit.
Did any of these men, say like Brady, make any statements to the agents at all that were memorable, or did they just get out and start shooting?
The only statement that I recall was that Dahover, when I told him that we were federal officers, to get his hands up, and he saw the machine gun stuck in his face, he says, "My God, don't shoot me." And he could reach in.
This is Brady here now?
This is Brady.
Okay.
He could reach into his belt and remove one of the two automatic weapons that he had on him. And when he came out shooting.
He did come out shooting.
And that's when that bullet went through Walter's coat. Of course, by that time, why, he was hit by both Gurney and Devereaux's return fire. So.
Did he try to run down the street, or did he just drop right there?
No, he turned. They were toward the left rear of the Buick, and as he opened the back door, as I told you, he was in the back seat by himself, of course. And as he opened the door, he turned to face Gurney and Devereaux, who were facing the automobile, but they had got on what we call the blind side of the car, so that he couldn't have shot through the rear glass and hit either one of them. You know, they had some protection. So I don't recall whether he made any statement to those agents when he got out of the car. I'm talking about Brady. I don't recall him making any statement or them stating that he had said anything.
Do you, when this action went on, what was your recollection of that? You had your own individual gun battle going on, and then there was another one taking place in the street. Did you have any recollection that other gunfire was going, or were you completely absorbed in fighting?
Very truthfully, I was concentrating on the problem at hand, and the problem at hand at that time was Schaefer, and I was trying to be darn sure that my gun was pointing in the right direction and that he was being hit by my fire, and the guns were somewhat muffled in the upstairs across the street. But it was obvious, and the agents obviously stated that they shot a couple of shots at Schaefer, but he was falling and stumbling into the street as they shot him, and the coroner's inspection of his body showed that he had bullet holes in him other than the .45 Thompson machine gun.
Isn't it true that the Brady gang at that time was considered right up there as public enemies #1?
Oh, they had been carried on the identification orders as #1, 2, and 3 as individuals and as the mob for quite a long time. I don't recall exactly how long, but they were definitely the #1 gang that we were trying to apprehend at that time. There was nobody that superseded them in their importance in our way, because, as I said earlier, they'd killed several people and committed so many crimes, and we certainly wanted to get them out of circulation as quick as we could.
Where were they from?
They had sprung up around Indiana, the middle part. Cayley Church was somewhat south central and not too far from Hammond, Indiana, in miles. And this mob had at one time been rum runners and dealt in contraband whiskey and a number of other offenses and so on.
Side 2 of Bill Nitschke's recollections of the apprehension of the Brady gang in Bangor, Maine.
You see, investigation, we had a number of agents up there. I don't remember all their names now, but we had them strategically located and situated around to where if the gang made a break to go one way or another, while they, for instance, there was a little alley running north and south off of the main street, and that alley would have been east of the sporting goods store and was almost where they had stopped that Buick, and the street went down north, the alley rather, went down north, and at the end of the alley and behind these stores was a creek that traversed through the business section. And we had put agents there by that alley, and in fact that's where Devereaux and Gurney were when the car stopped. Of course, they came out right away to block them from getting out, but we had agents scattered around, and the police were very helpful. We didn't want the police in on it in the actual shooting unless it was necessary. We used them as a second line of defense because of the fact that we knew this mob, knew that the only way we'd get that mob would be to have some kind of a shootout with them. They didn't recognize. Hell, they had too many death warrants hanging on them, and that's the reason we brought that automobile up. We paid $25 for that car. Another guy wanted $50. We said, bullshit, that car's been sitting here for months, and we're going to take it off your hand, and you can have it when we get through with it. So we actually paid him $25 for the car. And
that was parked right in front of the...
Parked right in front of the Bacon Sporting Goods store. And it was probably a good thing that it was there. You know, it would have kept the bullets going across the street or anything.
Did the car catch any bullets in the battle?
I don't think so. I think no, I don't remember. It didn't catch any from the Thompson because of the configuration and
Yes.
the terrain and all, but I think it stopped one of the ricochets. I think we found a ricochet that had come from the rifles of the guys upstairs. I know we found one shot in there. And of course those rifles were more powerful than the Thompson gun. And there again goes back to this matter of weapons and so on. You see, the occasion when you need barrage fire or burst fire, and those shots weren't shot just like that. I was pulling the trigger 2 and 3 shots at a time because it was keeping the muzzle of the gun where I wanted to point it. Where if I'd have ripped them all out of there, it'd gone up. And I had those, I took tape, and this was the mouth of one clip, and this was the mouth of the other. And I took this tape and wrapped these two together, you know, about like so. And all you had to do, you had the long one hanging up there, and when you got through, you hit the release and stick the other one in there. But I preferred that to the drum, the goddamn drum. I don't remember how many clips we had now, 8 or 9 clicks on the key. It had a big winding key on it, about like so. And that tightened the spring. It was like a clock spring. And here's the drum, and the cartridges were all sitting with the bullets up, and then the lid went down on it. And you put the key on, and that locked the lid on it. And then as you wound it, it tightened that spring. But the hell of it was, with 50 shots in there, and that spring wound tight. There was a question in my mind whether that first, see
Would seek the,
as the actuator went forward, picked up a projectile, it was hitting the projectile and sliding it into the chamber and shooting it all at the same time on one action. And it was a hell of a question at my time, because we had experimented with the damn drums down there in Quantico. My God, that's all we used to do when we wasn't in the classroom. See, then they'd come down and discuss various subjects with them in addition to the mechanics and technique of arrest and details of report writing and all that stuff. So we just spent all day long and half the night experimenting. Goddamn, we tried to, this old stuff about telling you that you couldn't explode dynamite by shooting it. Bullshit.
you can.
We stuck some of them up like candles in the ground, and you could hit them with a small caliber gun that didn't bother them, but when that 357,
Get them.
big, heavy, fast-moving 357 hit that stuff, it damn well exploded the dynamite. And then we took 5-gallon cans, metal cans. We got some square cans from paint store, some damn place, and brought them down there. And we filled them with gasoline. Poured all the gasoline out, burned it. Screwed the lid on and set those damn cans out there, and we'd shoot those cans with those tracer bullets. And the goddamn things that exploded
Boom.
from the vapor that was left in the can. There's no damn cans that exploded.
Really,
Oh yeah, we was trying out what we were doing. We was trying out to see the effect on gas tanks and all that stuff of automobiles. And then we bought another car, brought it down there to Quantico, excuse me, and in running tests, I found that you could penetrate the motor block at a complete right angle. This is the motor here. And you could, now, if you're shooting at an angle, no. But if you were at a straight right angle, you could penetrate the jacket, the wall of those motors. This was a 6-cylinder Chevrolet or something. We tried this on, and we were trying shots through the upholstery and to find out how they'd ricochet off of glass and side shields and windows and things like that. Hell was kind of dazed. In fact, I had a photographer down there out of the lab. He was shooting films right and left, you know, all angles. It gave us something to work on. And that's where you find out that these little subpoena pistols wasn't worth a shit in our work.
yeah.
They just didn't have the fun. Where those big 357s and rifles and that stuff, you'd shoot something, and if you want to angle, and there was a guy behind that, you know that it wasn't going to ricochet off, that you was going to break through and strike them. But hell, we run every kind of test you could think of down there.
Did, and Bangor, when you went, I presume that before the arrest, before this incident happened at Bangor, you probably had some kind of squad conference, and that's where you.
Yeah,
That's where you.
We went further than that. Made a scale drawing of the whole area. Where if they got by here and went there, well, that's where the police come in. It's that second line of defense. And I told you they came in with the old black Mariah. That was the police wagon. And blocked it on one end, blocked it with a couple of police cars on the other end, so that they couldn't drive out of they couldn't have got out of there if they'd wanted. If they'd got to that alley, all they could have done was gone off in the goddamn creek with the car. Yeah, we had some big drawing about the size of that oil painting over there, and we laid off the whole thing, and then we had to go over and pledge this little old, I think he was a Jew, this Taylor. He spoke very brokenly, I know that, and had to go over and pledge him to secrecy about using the space over his shop. And, oh Christ, we had a hell of a time with him. Was he going to get shot and all that damn stuff? We said, hell no, and if you hear any shooting, you get your butt down on the floor. And by the way, we had quite a detailed conference with the clerks and the manager, the owner of the store. And I'll say this, they acted just like mannequins. By God, we said, when they come in and we confront them, you hit the deck. All of you. Women, we had a couple of women that worked in the office end of it. And every damn one of them hit the floor. And I was glad they did. And you know, Shep Hurd, typical of those bastards, he wrote 2 or 3 stories about how he captured this gang. Oh yeah, and they were printed. The goddamn media didn't have sense enough to check all they had to do was
check their own files.
Was check the police department.
Yeah,
and they found out the truth. But he wrote a couple of stories about how he braved their gunfire and all that bullshit. Well, I didn't like Shep anyway. He was an arrogant. Not that I have any.
Now, was he the proprietor of the store?
He's the owner.
Yeah,
he owned the damn store.
Yeah.
And we caught the son of a bitch in so many lies right off the bat. And very truthfully, I had my own way of interrogation. And my idea when you catch a guy like that, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. That's the way I went after him. And I told him, I said, hell, I said, as much as we've got hanging on these guys, I said, you don't mean a goddamn thing. I said, might as well take you along for the ride with them if you want to go that way. And I said, you're aiding and abetting people on which there are federal warrants outstanding. And I said, if you want to get your ass in the jam, I said, all I've got to do is just let the commissioner know it. And the United States Attorney, I said, you will be standing trial with.
It doesn't seem like he had much of a...
So that's when he come down to earth,
Uh-huh.
and he found out he wasn't dealing with a bunch of cowboys. And,
well, he had ordered machine gun parts
in
for...
the meantime, we had called New York and had him go over and check, and hell, they had his records and everything else where he'd ordered these parts, and that they had the parts and they were going to ship them. That's how we knew when they'd be back up in Bangor.
Didn't he deny that he had put the order in at first until you confronted him?
He swore up and down it. No, hell no. He was a great, outstanding citizen. All right, yeah.
Now, how long did you work in the store? How many days
About a week.
Before they came?
About 7 days, I think, we was in that store. 6, 7 days. See, and then at night after the store had closed, hell, we were circulating all over the country. Walt and I both roller skated, and I think we had a couple other agents. Yeah, I don't remember who the hell they were now.
That's because Brady was a skate enthusiast.
Skating enthusiast. We went out. They had a roller rink. It was, I remember, it was over the east part of the city, but I don't remember now what the name of it. That doesn't matter. But Walt and I went out that roller rink, I don't know, quite a few times. And then Gurney and different ones were riding around checking motels. See, we couldn't go in and alert the motel operators at all. All we could do is look at that damn car. We knew they were in that Buick. We were positive that they were in the Buick. And that Buick had been, by the way, now that I think of it, that the court ordered that car turned over to the bureau, and I got the goddamn car assigned to me.
Is that right? I'll be darned.
I thought of that. Yeah.
You mean they confiscated the Buick and then later on?
Oh, sure.
And then,
Hell, yeah.
then they,
Well, you see, we confiscated it for the simple reason that the insurance company had already paid off for it. And the government doesn't give a damn with anything about the financial end of it. It's just like apprehending a car in a rum running narcotics case. If you stop the car and you find the narcotics, that car is automatically contraband right then and there.
so you had it assigned to you when you went back?
I just happened to think of
Were you signed, you were in Washington at the time and you went up
we
as a
brought the car
specialty?
back down there. The lab did a lot of work on it, you know, where that rear glass was. Yeah, I remember that. I used that damn car driving around. In fact, the matter is, I think Walter and I were in that car the night that we got those two guys that had killed the sheriff and his deputy, chief deputy down there. I'll show you some pictures of them. That was a pair of bastards. That was a funny story. The police department in the District of Columbia had a hell of a big police department then, and they had some guys up there that was taking a rake off Christ. They looked like Gandhi dancers that with the hands out fore and after. They all had good clothes, good shoes, and diamond rings and all that stuff. And it was, we knew that the vice squad was shaking the prostitutes down. We had tapes of that. But anyway, I got a tip that there was a couple of suitcases coming on a Greyhound bus to the District of Columbia, and that those two suitcases would be dropped at a barber shop. I think it's 4 or 5 chair barber shop. It's a fairly good sized barber shop. So there's another little Dago. He was a little Italiano, and I got him, the guy that owned the shop, and I got him out, and we sat down in the car 2 or 3 blocks from there. And he and I had a talk like the Lord loved. And I told him, I said, now, there's got to be a reason why those bags are sent to your barbershop of all the tens of thousands of places it could come. And I said, you know what's going to happen? I said, I'm going to shoot your goddamn ass off if I find out that you notified these punks. See, we knew they were in town, but we didn't know where the hell they were. We couldn't find them. So he says, well, I'll tell you. He says, I happen to know one of the, I don't remember now which one, it was one of them that he had known somewhere way back. And he told us where the rooming house was that they were staying. And it was a walk-up, 2-story walk-up, big building. So I got 4 or 5 more agents. Walter and I were working like a pair together, because he and I had worked so many cases together, you know, we didn't have to go through a lot of bullshit. I knew if there was any shooting, well, I didn't have to look and see where Walter was. He'd be right there. So anyway, they got the bags. They came to the goddamn barbershop. No, they didn't. No, goddamn it, they didn't. They phoned the barbershop and the barber, I remember now, the barber took the goddamn bags over. That's right. And we went tailing on him, you know, and he took the bags over and took them upstairs. And he wanted us to be damn sure that we didn't go in to take them while he was there, because he's afraid he'd get shot. So we let him get back down the stairs, and I had the agents take him and put him in the car because we were about to release him. And a couple of the agents took him, put him in the car. We had the place pretty well surrounded by that time. And Walter and I went up the stairs, and there was a panel door, about like that glass door over there, and it was wooden panel. And it was, it didn't have a cross bolt type lock, but it had one of these that you had to lock with an old time key. And we went upstairs and saw where this door was. And I said, Walter, there ain't no way we're going to let them know that we're here. I said, we're going to hit that door. I said, it's a frame door. Well, we got off. I weighed about right around 185, 190 pounds. And I was in goddamn good shape, I do say it. So we got off and hit that door, and the goddamn door went down and hit on the bed. And we just used it as a gangplank. We run right up the door, and these bastards were like, just about like this bed would be here. They were down on their knees going through all this stuff to try to get change of clothes and then some other stuff that I think there was supposed to have been a gun or something in there. Well, anyway, I had the shotgun. No, did I? One of it, Walter had the shotgun, and I had the Tommy gun. I had my Tommy gun, that's right. And we hit the thing, laid it on them, and they were down on their knees going through this stuff. And I never saw it happen like this. Both of those guys started wetting their pants.
I'll be darned.
The nerves, and they couldn't stop, and they peed all over the front of their pants while they were on it. And one of them said later, says, ain't I a brave son of a bitch, I pissed all over myself.
Well,
But
now who were these two people?
they was the guys that had killed the sheriff and the chief deputy
that's right.
down in the Carolinas.
In the Carolinas.
And had fled after
Do you remember their names?
Hell, I've got the pictures of
Oh,
them.
okay.
Sure, I got to write up the whole goddamn thing. Well, the police had the neighborhood. They second-handedly, they'd gotten hold of some information that goes not from us, because hell, I wouldn't tell them what time it was or what day it was, because there's none of them you could trust. I'm talking about the D.C. police. And they had officers all over that damn end of the district looking for these guys. They knew they were in the district, but where? And Walter and I got them right out from under their noses. And we took them out, of course, and arraigned them.
When was that?
I guess that was probably in the 40s, I suppose. Yeah, I believe it was.
No, that's right. Can you show me that article now?
With the story, Bill Nitschke showed me a newspaper article, and the two subjects involved that they arrested, one was Ralph, R-A-L-P-H, Hanford, H-A-N-F-O-R-D, and the other was George Smith. And it has here in the newspaper article, the headline is, 2 men seized here as accessories in triple slaying. Prisoners face charges, North Carolina gun battle. The article reads in part, 2 alleged former convicts, one for complicity in a triple killing in North Carolina 10 days ago, were arrested in a rooming house somewhere in this city, that being Washington, D.C., Friday night, and have been returned to Burlington, North Carolina. It was learned last night. The arrests were made here by agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who turned the men over to the North Carolina authorities. The place of their arrest in Washington was not disclosed by the FBI. It was learned, however, that the car in which they were believed to have come from North Carolina was seized by
Prince George County Police Thursday night at Seat Pleasant. It is now at a garage in Marlboro. Identity of the two prisoners was disclosed by Edward Scheit.
Ed Scheit.
Ed Scheit.
Yeah.
S-C-H-E-I-D-T.
He was working now on one of the desks or something with Ed 10.
Special agent in charge of the Charlotte, North Carolina office of the FBI, according to the Associated Press. He said they were Ralph Hanford, 28, and George O. Smith, 31. They were charged with being accessories to murder and waived extradition. Each prisoner, he added, had served 2 terms in North Carolina Penitentiary. The victims in the gun battle were Sheriff M as in mother, P as in Paul Robertson, who had assumed office the day before. City Policeman S.W. Bond, V-A-U-G-H-A-N, and Roy Huffman, H-U-F-F-M-A-N, who escaped from the Anson County, North Carolina prison camp October 22. Still hunted by the FBI agents and authorities of several southern states is Roy Kelly, age 20, who escaped from the Anson County prison with Huffman and is wanted, Scheit said, on a charge of murder in the triple killing. The hunt for Kelly has extended over most of the South. Last week, a state policeman was shot near Stewart, Virginia, and he said he thought his assailant was the hunted convict. The officer was shot when he stopped a car to question the occupants. Yesterday, the Mississippi search for Kelly shifted to Mississippi, where state highway patrolmen reported they pursued and fired on a car they thought was driven by the North Carolina fugitive near Holly Springs, Mississippi. One of the patrolmen, initial M, initial R, Winbish, W-I-N-B-I-S-H, said he had known Kelly at a Tennessee CCC camp and that he had recognized him as the driver of the car. The Mississippi patrolman said the man believed to be Kelly and a woman and a companion escaped into a forest at a point where the highway was blocked for construction work. None of the shots fired at the fugitive was believed to have been effective, Patrolman Whippish said. An unidentified woman was believed to have been with the former convicts in North Carolina gun battle. She was reportedly seen in the car in which the bandits fled. The triple killings occurred at a filling station. The officer noted a light burning in the building and thought it was suspicious. The sheriff and Officer Bond were shot down, and a third officer, B.F. Bailiff, B-A-L-I-F-F, shot and killed Huffman. Huffman's companions escaped in a hail of bullets. Bill, this would have taken place in the early 40s, is that correct, to your recollection?
I'm pretty sure that, I'm just trying to think. It might have been the very late 30s, but it seemed to me like it was the early 40s. I'm not positive. Somewhere I've got a date on that thing.
Would you have then, would this been another application of the so-called, quote, hot squad, in a quote?
Right.
Because these men were desperate killers and the killers of police officers, then the Bureau called upon you and your partner and
after all,
others.
you couldn't send a bunch of accountants out that had no experience in firearms and so on.
That's right. Right. Okay, this is one of many interesting cases that we will hear from, and this will conclude today's session.